Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger. Okay, so it's no secret that black men, black American men, are the thirstiest men in America, perhaps the world. This wasn't always the case. It didn't happen overnight, and it was by design. See, this is the result of long term neglect as it comes to, affection, intimate affection, let's just say that, um, and deliberate design, pressure for loyalty, pressure for virility, and neglect of those things is what put us in those positions. Think of it like this. Say if the workers of Coca-Cola decide to get together and unionize against Coca-Cola for better pay. That puts Coca-Cola on pressure to offer more. Coca-Cola then becomes desperate for employees in order to get their product out. However, there's another aspect of this technique that Black women has implemented on Black men that isn't really talked about that often. But we're going to talk about it today. It's the where do the employees go? See, when you're starving out Coca-Cola, you also starving out yourself for a paycheck. So what do? Well, all of the employees at the same time go to Pepsi. Even if Pepsi don't pay them as much as Coca-Cola did, they don't care because their goal isn't to actually sustain employment with Pepsi. Their job is to starve out Coca-Cola. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, at this point, what happens is Pepsi has a surplus of willing employees, which means that they can not only leverage their existing employees, they can treat the new employees not as well as they would if they didn't have such a surplus. And that's the position Black women have found themselves in. What they do is they try to create a certain thirst from a certain type of Black men that they feel is long-term potential. And in doing so, they have to go to other groups, whether it's short-term potential men or men of other groups. They go there in floods and hordes, creating a surplus for them, and then they find themselves mistreated. Now, this video that I'm about to review isn't about the mistreatment, so to speak, that they find on the other side, but it's about the mentality that goes along with hopping over to the other side and the value that they are attempting to bring to that other side. So, one moment, I'm going to set up a new video and then we'll get into this. Fair use.
Situation where this guy, where he was just like so horrible to me and he just treated me like a stupid black. And it was like so painful for me, and everybody was like, well, you're the dumbass because you stayed and you're just a stupid and treat you like one. And like, I know that the situation was my fault because I should have just left, but like, it really hurt because like I had sex. He basically just like used me for. He was like white guy in a frat, and so basically, I ended up seeing him at Target when I was there with my old best friend like at the time, and he wouldn't look me in the eyes. He wouldn't say anything. It was like he was ashamed of me and just like embarrassed. Which is like how most people get about me, and it was like so painful. And so I stood up for myself and said what I needed to say to him, and he ran away from me when I was speaking to him. And my friend was like, that's humiliating, like she was like, you just embarrass yourself, and like that's pathetic for you as a black woman to do something that stupid. Like, it hurt so bad because I wasn't even worth being looked in the eye. Like, it hurt so bad. And looking back, and that was the guy who, like, when I asked him to stop during sex, he held me down. Like, that happened a few months after the Target situation.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there for a second. Because Tell me if y'all heard something different. And tell me if I'm getting the tell me in the comment section if I'm getting the timeline wrong. She met a guy, a fraternity guy. Doesn't seem like they went to school together or anything like that. So he didn't have to worry about running into her on campus or anything like that. He didn't have to, go through. He didn't have to worry about seeing her again. He didn't expect to see her again in Target. And they hooked up, and he ghosted her, which is part of growing up for many people. He ghosted her, and she confronted him in Target, and then they hooked up again. And after she was disrespected, and her friend said that she humiliated herself and black women in general with her display in Target, after that, she decided to hook up with him again. After knowing that he's not going to speak to her if he sees her in public. And then he held her down because she was finished and he wasn't. Okay. All right. Let's continue.
And I was like telling my friends, I was like, I'm just fed up being treated like this. It's like every person that I would run into would do this like take advantage of me. And they were like, then just don't be a stupid fat ass. And it was like so painful for me. Because I feel like if I tell anybody, they'll just tell me to stop being stupid. It's like, this is like the last place. Because like I can't talk to my friends about it. Like I can't talk to my parents about this. And like my therapist doesn't understand. Like I'm in so much pain right now. Like it was already difficult enough as it is. Like I was growing up, I didn't hate my
Okay. She's right that she can't talk to her friends about this. The truth of the matter is she don't really have friends. She has sisters in the sisterhood, perhaps, but she don't actually have friends. Or else they wouldn't have let her make this video. Or they would have told her to take it down. She's humiliating herself further. The sisterhood, embraces everyone or every black woman in it, as long as they conform to their rules and they're part of this unionized mating strategy that black women have. But that's the sisterhood for you. That's all she has. And to them, they looked at her like she embarrassed the sisterhood. So she wanted to get her story out, her tears out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they weren't having it. But what I want to talk about is not the whole race aspect of it, even though she brought it up. And according to her story, at least, she never brought up an instance where he brought it up, which means that it was something that was stronger in her mind than it was in his. Or at least if he was thinking it, he wasn't vocal about it. If he was someone who believed that she was good enough to good enough to bed, but not good enough to wed for ethnic reasons, he kept that to himself, at least according to the story. The criticisms that she had that were race based came from the audience, not from him, at least according to her story, which we're going to listen to again. But what I want to talk about is, why does it hurt so bad? I'm a guy that has been with every race and many ethnicities of women. And I have to say that people losing interest before and after a intimate encounter is something that's natural on both sides. But never do I see it hit harder any group but black women. For example, you smash a woman of a different who's not like that, and they don't like it. They don't like the whole pump and dump thing, but they're far less likely to go on TikTok or YouTube or whatnot and cry about it and then throw in the race card in doing so. They're far less likely to do that. They understand that it's something that happens. You don't want it to happen, but it does happen. The same with if a guy pays for a date and, she ghosts him afterwards. It happens. The guy don't want it to happen, but it happens. And he's far less likely to go on YouTube and cry about it. Now, the reason that Black women feel strongly about it is because in many instances, especially as it applies to a certain type of guy, and I'm not talking about race, I'm talking about, let's just say education. In this case, he's a frat guy, meaning he's in college or he has graduated from college. So when it comes to like what they would possibly consider a square dude, there are certain dudes that they expect to behave this way. Let's start there. If this guy was in a motorcycle club or something like that, if he was an exotic dancer, they understand that that comes with the territory. She didn't expect it to happen with this guy. So let's start there. Now, the reason why it hurts them more, it's because they gave more of their total value to this person. Okay, let me break it down. There is a over the limit fee for whatever. There's late fees, there's over the limit fees, there's parking tickets, there's all sorts of fees that exist. There's red light tickets, there's speeding tickets, etc., 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 etc. Now, if your annual income is $100 million a year, or let's just say $1 million a year, right? And you get a $300 carpool lane ticket. Yeah, it's like, okay, it's not a big deal because you got money. You got a lot of assets. You have a lot of value to where that $300 is a relatively small percentage of that value. But let's just say you are a student and your annual income working part-time is about $10,000 a year. Meaning that you are barely making ends meet. You are barely making ends meet. And then you get that $300 ticket. You see, at that point, it's a lot more expensive. Then you are a lot more upset about that ticket. Then you want to go on YouTube and cry about it because that $300 represents a larger portion of your total worth. What am I getting at? This girl is likely not worth anything more than her vagina. That's what I'm getting at. Her vagina is a very small portion of her total value. Or excuse me, it's a very large portion of her total value because she has little else to offer. Basically, she gave 90% of what she had to this guy, which seems like a 10-minute SNF. But that's all she has. Other women will look at situations like that, and they'll say, I only gave him a small part of my value to him. I didn't cook for him. I didn't give him any kids. I didn't, rear his children for decades. I didn't, bring class or bring business to his business. I didn't hook him up with a job at my father's company. I didn't give him a Ferrari. I didn't wash his clothes. I didn't cook him breakfast consecutively for each day in each semester for the remainder of his college education. I didn't do any of those things. If I did do all of those things, if I did give him my full value and then get ghosted, then I would be upset. But what I did was gave him 10 minutes of my time and 10 inches of my space. Oh, excuse me, this is Brad. I gave him 5 inches of my space. To her, it's a far greater value given because it's all she has. She has nothing. And from her point of view, he came along and took the very last thing that she has. I'm going to play it again. This time I'm going to give my commentary piece by piece. Hit the like button, by the way. Hit that like button.
A really traumatic situation where this guy, where he was just like so horrible to me and he just treated me like a stupid black. And it was like so painful for me, and everybody was like, well, you're the dumbass because you stayed and you're just a stupid and treat you like one. And like, I know that the situation was my fault because I should have just left, but like, it really hurt because like I had sex. He basically just like used me for. He was like white guy in a frat.
So basically, he just like used me for intimacy. I remember there was an episode of Friends where I forget her name. I think her name is Monica. One of the dark-haired women in Friends. She said something, and she was like, "Why would a guy lie about that?" And her brother said, "Are you looking for a more sophisticated reason than to get you into bed?" So I remember very little from that episode, but I remember that scene. And you want to know what happened after that? The next episode. Yeah, it happened. You know, she got scammed out of some box, and that was the end of that. And by the end of the season, or by the end of the series, she got married to the guy that she always knew because he lived across the hall, and she should have married years ago. But you know, it's a story. It's a TV series. But nevertheless, it's not the end of the world. They went on to the next episode. But with them, it's like, oh, I can't believe I gave him my soul, my essence, the center of the universe, this platinum poon. I can't believe I just gave it to this goon. Hit the like button.
And so basically, I ended up seeing him at Target when I was there with my old best friend, like at the time. And he wouldn't look me in the eyes. He wouldn't say anything. It was like he was ashamed of me and just like embarrassed. Which is like how most people get about me. And it was like so painful. And so I stood up for myself and said what I needed to say to him.
Okay. That is something that's very, very, very open to interpret. Like, you know, you left out a huge portion there. Like, I said what I needed to say. Could you elaborate on that? I'd like to know what you said, because, you know, you paint a vivid picture of what he did, but what did you say? So right there, we know that the story is really told to her favor.
And he ran away from me when I was speaking to him. And my friend was like, that's humiliating. Like, she was like, you just embarrass yourself. And like, that's pathetic for you as a black woman to do something that stupid. Like, it hurt so bad because I wasn't even worth being looked in the eye. Like, it hurt so bad. And looking back, and that was the guy who, like, when I asked him to stop during sex, he held me down. Like, that happened a few.
Y'all heard that, right? Y'all heard that.
Few months after the Target situation. And I was like telling my friends, I was like, I'm just fed up being treated like this. It's like every person that I would run into would do this shit, like take advantage of me. And they were like, then just don't be a stupid fat ass. And it was like so painful for me. Because I feel like if I tell anybody, they'll just tell me to stop being a stupid. It's like, this is like the last place, because like I can't talk to my friends about it, like I can't talk to my parents about this, and like my therapist doesn't understand. Like I'm in so much pain right now, like it was already difficult enough as it is. Like I was growing up, I didn't hate my, like really.
Well, sweetie, the truth of the matter is everybody understands. Every adult understands, because we have either been in a similar situation, have placed somebody in that situation, or understand what it takes to avoid said situation. So you're not really saying anything that people are like surprised about. Like it's something that has happened to most people. Most people fall into the three categories that I've given. You said something to the effect that this always happens to you, that this is a thing that happens to you. It could be that you're punching above your weight class and race has nothing to do with it. A lot of women who find themselves in situations like that where they are chronically pumped and dumped, they either have an extraordinary character flaw that turns guys off, meaning that while talking to you, he realizes that he don't want to continue to do so. He don't enjoy your company. He don't enjoy your non-intimate company, so he's just going to enjoy your intimate company. It could be that. It could be that you are significantly less pretty than the guy is handsome. I don't know. I haven't seen the guy. That's a factor. If you're constantly, dating guys who are more handsome than you are pretty, and they are looking to basically, a slump buster, somebody who busts a slump. And it seemed like he had two slumps, to be perfectly honest. Like he's seen the way that you acted in Target, and he didn't want to ever see you again, but he had another slump, so he needed you to bust it, and you did. It could be a number of things like that. I think the reason why the people around you is reacting that way is because you're coming with a strong reaction to it. It's overkill. If someone came to me with tears in their eyes talking about that they just got pumped and dumped, I would say, well, did you have your V card or something? I get it. Okay, I get it. You want to find a relationship that you don't qualify for, and you want to sustain that relationship. That's very difficult to do when you don't qualify for it. What do I mean by that? The difference between hookup culture and traditional culture is that in hookup culture, men are willing to go down a couple of points as long as you go down on him. That's hookup culture. It gives a woman the ability to hook up with guys that are out of her relationship range. Traditional culture means that you get a longer stable relationship with a guy who is less handsome than you are pretty, but he appreciates you more and the relationship is more secure. You want the best of both worlds, it seems. And that's why you're constantly using hookups to find traditional relationships. And this is why you failed. This is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.